Right now, you remember nothing. Not your best friend's number, not your neighbor's name, not what you had for lunch 3 days ago. You don't think that's a problem because your phone remembers it for you. There's a contacts list that knows everyone. There's a calendar that knows everywhere you need to be. There's a search bar that knows everything you've ever forgotten. Now take all of that away. No phone, no notes, no reminders, no Google. Just your bare brain and a world that will kill you the moment you forget the wrong thing. That used to be normal, not for one forgetful person. For hundreds of thousands of years, your ancestors carried everything inside their heads. Every plant that could feed them. Every plant that could kill them. Every animal's tracks, every season's pattern, hundreds of miles of terrain with no map and no landmarks they hadn't memorized themselves. And they didn't forget. They couldn't afford to. You're the proof they got it right. Every single one of them remembered enough to stay alive long enough to pass life down to you. So what happened? How did the sharpest memory this planet ever produced end up needing a reminder to drink water? That's what I want to show you. Because this isn't just a story about memory. It's a story about what you gave away without noticing, and how completely you gave it away. Let's be honest about what their memory was actually doing. Because saying they had good memory makes it sound like they were just better at trivia nights. It was nothing like that. A typical hunter-gatherer carried detailed knowledge of somewhere between 200 and 300 plant species. Not names, not vague descriptions. Full operational knowledge. Which ones were edible raw? Which ones needed cooking first? Which ones were poisonous in large amounts but medicinal in small ones? Which ones grew near water? Which ones came up in spring versus autumn? Which ones could be stored and which ones spoiled fast? All of that, for 200 to 300 species, held entirely in memory, with zero margin for error because a wrong answer meant death. That's not a party trick. That's a biological database running in real time with life or death stakes on every query. Then there were animal tracks. An experienced hunter could look at marks in dirt or snow and tell you the species, the approximate size and age of the animal, how long ago it passed, which direction it was heading, whether it was healthy or injured, and whether it was worth chasing. Not by magic, by stored pattern recognition built up over years of active memorization. The same way you don't think about reading words anymore. They didn't think about reading tracks. It was automatic, deeply encoded, burned into memory through repetition and consequence. And then there's the part that really gets me. Spatial memory, the ability to hold a map of the world inside your head. There are indigenous groups in Australia whose oral traditions contain accurate geographic information about events that happened 10,000 years ago. Sea level changes, volcanic eruptions, coastline shifts, passed down through stories, generation to generation, with enough accuracy that modern geologists have used those stories to locate actual archaeological sites. 10,000 years of accurate memory, no writing, no recording, no backup, just human brains doing exactly what human brains were built to do when you actually ask them to do it. Here's what nobody tells you about memory. It doesn't just store things, it stores things based on how much you need them. The brain is not a hard drive that passively saves everything equally. It's an active system that decides what matters based on how often you use it and what the consequences of forgetting are. For your ancestors, the consequences of forgetting were immediate and lethal. Wrong plant, you're dead. Wrong turn, you're lost. Wrong read on an animal's behavior, your lunch. That pressure didn't just make them careful. It physically shaped their brains. It built stronger neural connections, denser memory networks, faster recall, not because they were a different species, because they were using the hardware in a way you no longer do. And here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. The hardware hasn't changed. Your brain is the same brain, same hippocampus, same prefrontal cortex, same neural architecture that carried entire landscapes and plant encyclopedias and social histories without writing a single word down. The difference isn't the equipment. The difference is the load, and you have completely stopped loading it. Researchers ran a study where they gave two groups of people the same set of tourist attractions to look at. One group was allowed to photograph everything. The other group just looked. When memory was tested afterward, the group that took photos remembered significantly less because the brain made a calculation. The photo exists. I don't need to store this. Researchers call it the photo-taking impairment effect. And it's not just about photos. It's about every note you type instead of memorize, every address you save instead of learn, every name you store in a contact instead of actually remembering. Every time you outsource memory to a device, your brain registers that it doesn't need to do that work, and it stops doing it. Not out of laziness, out of pure efficiency. The brain never wastes resources on work that's being done elsewhere. There's a famous study on London taxi drivers. Before GPS, London cabbies had to memorize the entire city, every street, every shortcut, thousands of routes. Researchers scanned their brains and found that the hippocampus, the part responsible for spatial memory and navigation, was physically larger in taxi drivers than in the general population. More use, more size, more demand, more capacity. Then GPS arrived, cabbies started using it, and the researchers went back and scanned them again. The hippocampus had shrunk. The brain had literally physically reduced the size of a region it no longer needed to work as hard. Use it or lose it isn't a motivational poster. It's a biological fact. Now think about what this means at scale. Your ancestors used their full memory capacity every single day from childhood. Tracking, navigating, identifying, memorizing, recalling, teaching, storing. The hippocampus of a prehistoric hunter was probably closer to that London taxi driver on their best day than it is to you right now. And the difference isn't genetic, it's behavioral, it's environmental. It's a direct result of what we've asked our brains to do and what we've stopped asking them to do. There's something else nobody talks about. Episodic memory. The ability to remember experiences vividly. Modern humans live passively. We watch screens, we scroll, we consume content while our bodies sit completely still. Everything comes in from the outside. Your ancestors were active participants in everything. A hunt engaged every sense simultaneously. Eyes tracking movement, ears catching sound, nose reading the wind, skin feeling the temperature shift, emotional stakes as high as stakes get. Research shows clearly that experiences which are emotionally charged, physically demanding, and multisensory get encoded into memory dramatically better than passive experiences. Your ancestors' entire lives were exactly that. Every day at full intensity, every memory sharp. And here's the thing about your life. How many weeks blur together? How many days can you not account for? How many months of your own life are basically just a gray smear you can't recall? It's not because your memory is broken. It's because nothing is happening that your brain considers worth storing. And here's the strangest part of all of this. We've normalized it. We say things like, I have a terrible memory, as if it's a fixed personality trait, as if it's just the way some people are. It isn't. It's an acquired condition. It's something that happened to you gradually, convenience by convenience, app by app, outsourced task by outsourced task. And you didn't notice because each individual step was so small and so reasonable. Why memorize a number when the phone holds it? Why learn a route when GPS knows it? Why remember a fact when Google has it? Each decision made sense in isolation. The cumulative result is a brain running at a fraction of its actual capacity, while a glass rectangle does the remembering for you. Your ancestors didn't study memory techniques. They didn't do brain training apps. They didn't take supplements. They just lived in a world that required them to remember, and they remembered because they had no other choice. And their brains were extraordinary because of it. Now here's the part that actually matters. This isn't gone. The hardware is still there. The hippocampus still responds to demand. Studies show that people who deliberately practice memorization, who navigate without GPS, who learn phone numbers, who read instead of scroll, who put the phone down and actually try to remember things, show measurable improvements in memory function within weeks, not years, weeks. The brain is waiting to be asked to do its job again. And bro, let's just be real for a second. Your great-great-great-grandfather could navigate across 100 miles of unmarked wilderness using stars and landmarks he'd memorized as a child. He knew every person in his community, their history, their relationships, their debts, their stories, all of it, stored perfectly in his head. He could identify a dangerous plant from 10 feet away by its leaf shape alone. And you forgot your own Wi-Fi password. You've watched the same YouTube video twice because you forgot you already saw it. You need your phone to tell you your own mother's birthday. Your ancestors were carrying entire worlds inside their heads. You're carrying a device that carries the world for you. And every day you let it, a little more of what made that brain remarkable quietly turns off. The most powerful memory system ever built is sitting in your skull right now doing almost nothing, because you gave its job to something that fits in your pocket. And unlike your ancestors, you had a choice.